Okay, so we are going live soon. So, hello everyone, and welcome to our weekly live stream here at Permitail. Today, I'm really proud to be with Ahmetovic, who is the co-founder and CEO of WeAreDevelopers. If you're not familiar with WeAreDeveloper, soon you will be, but I'm sure you are familiar if you're here and if you are a developer. Before we are starting, a few announcements or comments. So first, I want to thank to Permit, the company I work for sponsoring these live streams, and to inform you that we have recording of this live stream. So if you need just drop off, feel free. You will get a link after to the YouTube where you can watch and listen to all these live streams. You can do it live, you can do it later. And the most important one, if you have any kind of questions you want to ask Sead in live or have comments, feel free to do it whenever you watch us. It is YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever we are streaming this live stream. You can just drop off your comments and questions there and we'll answer them live. We are looking for that. So looking forward for your comments. And with this announcement, I'm happy to start our live stream today. I'm Gabriel. I'm leading the developer relations in Permit. And as I say, I'm really proud today to host Sead, the co-founder and CEO of WeAreDevelopers. Sead, you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh, yes, of course. First of all, thanks for having me. So I hope it's gonna be fun. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be fun. So my name is Sead. I'm, as you said, I co-founded WeAreDevelopers with some friends and colleagues of mine. And I have a background in software engineering, like, the classical path. I always say I wasn't a very good engineer. So at some point, the team pushed me to management. To not disrupt kind of engineering processes. But yeah, so that's basically me. Like I love playing chess. I love talking to people, bringing people together. I'm very interested in everything that happens in tech. This is also why it's so fun for me to run WeAreDevelopers together with my team. And create and build and shape this community. So yeah, I hope that's good as a short introduction. And
yeah, I think that it is a good point that we'll get to that later. And we already mentioned them. We are going to talk today about the more human skills of developers. And I think Ted is one of the greatest person to ask about because while many founders raise today money for having AI suffix in their domain startup, Ted just raised money for his organization that is more for connecting developers as humans. So maybe you can tell us more about what is WeAreDevelopers, how do you see yourself, how did it start?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see ourselves as a community with the mission to help developers. And when I say developers, I really mean kind of tech professionals who build stuff. So I also mean DevOps people, security engineers, product owners. So everyone who is kind of involved in creating software, creating products from a technical point of view. And with this community, kind of, we are on the mission to help developers, tech talent, tech professionals grow, provide them with interesting content, career opportunities, so that they grow personally, professionally, they get the skills, the tools they need. And we do that with, I think we are mostly known for the WeAreDevelopers World Congress, probably. That's a very big event once a year in Berlin, in Germany, with 15,000 developers and tech professionals gathering together. But we actually do that the whole year. So we have an online platform where you have thousands of hours of video content about technical topics, cultural topics. You have a weekly newsletter where we give you the information that you need to know as a developer for this week, for the upcoming week. We have a job board. We have kind of a 360-degree ecosystem for developers to support them in their careers and also in their personal interests. And so we see ourselves as a platform connecting people, also connecting, obviously, people with brands, with companies, and everyone with everyone. So this is what we do. It started in 2015 as kind of a hobby project.
Oh, wow.
So and Rushin, my co-founder, and I, we had a company together, a digital agency. So we did software development projects and digital consulting and business consulting for other companies in terms of to get them on track with the digital transformation projects they have. And at some point we said, okay, let's kind of do a meetup for developers, a small conference. We did other events as well for other target audiences back then, especially Ben was a very engaged community builder. And so we tried it. 2015 it was, I think, 200, 300 attendees here in Vienna. So it was a bigger meetup, actually. Was fun. So we repeated it for 2016. Had then 500 to 600 attendees. Also got some sponsors who said, hey, that's cool, that could have a future. So we saw there is also a market opportunity in terms of there are companies who really want to invest into such a thing, because you obviously need to finance these kind of things if you want to do it professionally or full time. And then we decided, okay, there is a market opportunity for us, and we can combine a passion, like our passion of kind of building bridges between people, providing a platform for people, for developers especially. We can combine this passion with a market opportunity, and we can create additional value for our target audience. So it's kind of a win-win-win situation. And then we started the company WeAreDevelopers in 2017. So we founded the company in 2017. And then it just happened, like the event grew year over year. So now it's like 15,000 attendees. We have this we have the online platform with hundreds of thousands of developers consuming content, watching videos, applying for jobs. We have 170,000 jobs online on the job board. And it's just fun, so this is a short summary about that.
So we actually been sponsors of WeAreDeveloper in the last year in 2024.
Oh, cool!
And really
Thank you.
Thinking of really thinking that's the way we went, right?
How did you
really
like
thinking
it?
of doing it. So I just say that we really want to do it again. I'll say that I'm responsible for sponsoring event, and since I started sponsoring event, I heard from many people that told me, "Hey, you should look at WeAreDevelopers, and you should look at WeAreDevelopers." And I think you probably have, beside of, let's say, AWS summits and AWS summits and reInvent and stuff like that, you probably have the largest private held conference event at the world, I guess, for developers at least. And we're really happy. I think that was definitely the strongest, or one of the strongest conferences that we had there. But I want to get a little focus on that. So you started as an engineer, and you probably has a consulting service where you sell software, not people.
Apps,
but then,
e-commerce, yes.
But then when you decide to prioritize the human skills on top of the machine skills, let's call it, before even the day of generative AI and the threat that they have today, with all these titles that we also use, will they replace developer? But what make you to choose the focus on the human skill and the human community over do cool apps and stuff like that?
That's actually very simple, because the humans are the foundation. So even now, like when everyone talks about AI and so on, and I'm pretty sure that we will talk about AI in this session as well, but the human being is the foundation. And when you build technology, you don't build technology for the sake of building technology. Like, unless, maybe some people do that, maybe researchers, so I don't know, but you don't build technology for the sake of technology. You build technology for people. So for us, it was never a question. Like, for me, it's always kind of, if I can do something that supports humans, then that's kind of, for me, a bigger passion than just doing the technology, because even the tech, like, you can say that what we do is just it's not technology, but it serves the same. It serves the same kind of effect, because every company that kind of wants to be successful needs to solve or resolve a need that a human being has, right? Like either you have a developer tool or a cloud service, or you're a car company and you build this stuff because you want humans to use it or make lives easier and these kind of things. And I mean, especially in our case, I think the super interesting thing is, I mean, we do have the online platform, which is kind of obviously a technical product and also has some magic in it, but it is, we really see ourselves as a community with a strong traction and a strong product. But obviously, it's not a high sophisticated rocket science what we do from an engineering aspect, and that is fine because not everything needs to be kind of a rocket ship, right? It doesn't need to be. And at the end of the day, what's for us so interesting is because we work with so many partners, not just with the events, with the online platform, talking with people and companies like you and your company. We get so many insights in everything. We get so many insights and different aspects of technology. Like just when you go through the Congress or when you look at the videos, like you have cloud companies advertising and talking about like, hey, how do you go to the cloud? How do you use it? How do you reduce costs for the cloud environments? And then on the other side, you have then other trends like, hey, let's go bare metal again, because cloud is super expensive and it's over-engineered for many use cases. And then when we started WeAreDevelopers, I remember it was like, hey, everyone goes to the cloud and now let's go multi-cloud. And now it's kind of, hey, maybe we should kind of think differently. Obviously, the solution is different for every company. Just think of microservices. Let's go everyone microservices 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Now we already see, like when I talk with people, like CEOs of other companies, or at the event with the speakers and so on, you see, hey, there are more and more people saying, okay, maybe monoliths aren't so bad, or maybe it's a combination of them, and maybe it's super interesting. You get so much knowledge. It's like watching TV shows every day, all day long, like in terms of information that you get.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because if I recapture, reframe what you say here, you say most of the developers, and you actually say it explicitly, most of the developers, 90% of the developers do technology for people. They don't do technology for the sake of the technology. And then you bring the example of how the tech world change, or how different companies sell completely different technology approach to people, because people are thinking differently, because people behave differently, people have different needs. And I think it may be a good point to understand the definition of what is a developer nowadays. What is it? Is that
I like to simplify stuff, and I like to kind of get rid of myths. And like developers, they build stuff. The other thing is how they do that, because also the title of this of this session, but also when you read kind of general interest media, you often have this, will AI take our jobs? And then obviously, like when I have media interviews, they often ask me like, hey, will AI take the jobs of developers? Because that's logical too. You have co-pilots, you have this, you have that. And I'm just like, no. So first of all, there is like so many hundreds of thousands and millions, like hundreds of thousands jobs unfilled, job positions unfilled just in the German-speaking area in Europe, then even more in Europe, and then millions in the world. So would be happy if AI could take over this thing so that companies don't struggle because they don't have enough workforce. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's not as fast as people think. Like as with every technological revolution, like we tend to overestimate the short-term effects and underestimate the long-term effects. While obviously every company nowadays thinks about how will AI change my industry or my processes, or how can I use AI to improve productivity in my company, and so on and so on. Most of them, like 99% of the companies, still are not there to kind of be even near the implementation. This takes time, especially in big companies. Like if you have 5,000 engineers in your organization, you can't just say overnight, hey, guys, everyone use GitHub Copilot, and then we are kind of 30% more productive overnight.
Yeah.
No, that means kind of, it has an impact on other stuff as well, not only on your local machine. So, but coming back to your question, like, what is a developer? Like, when I was a developer, like, let's say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I still was actively coding, with the skills that I have had back then, I couldn't get a job today. Obviously, because what I did use then is like PHP, and JavaScript was already there, obviously, but then it was kind of the days of Ajax. So that like kind of a big thing, and jQuery and so on and so on. So, and with that knowledge, kind of, if I would have stayed at that level, I wouldn't get any job today. So a developer 15 years ago wasn't the same as today, and it wasn't the same like 30 years ago. Like when I started, and this is a story I often discuss with others. When I started as a developer, then I actually could choose between, some of the main programming languages like Java, C#, C++, and it was more like kind of, hey, if you want to do embedded stuff, then you do C++, for example, in the school. And then you kind of learn one of these kind of languages, and you have a couple of IDEs that you can use, and then it's kind of, your career was kind of given. You didn't have so many different options to choose. And then with the rise of web applications, so with the internet, obviously anyways, but then with web applications, it became very easy to become a software developer, because you could actually, watch 2 weeks YouTube videos, and then you can do some front-end magic, and then you're actually a developer, right? So,
that's the way I started.
Yeah, exactly. And that's fine. That's awesome, and you're a developer. And even someone who just uses no-code tools to build can call themselves a developer, because they build stuff. And in 50 years, probably nobody will write lines of code except the people who write the lines of code of the AI or whatever. So a developer is a developer, build stuff. That's the question. That's the answer to the question. Building stuff.
So probably looking on building stuff, and I totally agree with the statement that you have beforehand, because if I'm looking 12 years ago, when I started to work as a developer in a large companies, for some developers then, I came on a front-end developer. That was a very new thing back then.
Yeah, and you are not a real developer, right? That's
exactly
what I told you.
exactly. For
Exactly, yeah.
for some .NET developers there, I was like, this guy who came to do HTML, and I remember like in the first month, someone sent me this meme of HTML is not a programming language, and that's not offend me, right?
Yeah,
I also code
it's a markup.
Right, but I mean, that was my title. They called me HTML developer. That's the way the company called me.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I was there, but work on a hybrid mobile. So I work a lot on JavaScript and really coding stuff. And a couple of years later, I became more full stack, and then I started to work on other company. And these people who tell this guy is not a developer, they not have a job, because they were like in a very old Windows form of a thing, and they just stuck there, and they work on on the same place until this day. But today, with my experience as a developer, who understand that every year or every some amount of time I need to learn a new way to build stuff, I like that's the way I think a real definition of developer, someone who has the ability and the willingness to learn some new stuff every day. But that's let me.
I wouldn't agree too much with that. Like I know what you are saying. I hear that, and I would say there is some truth with that. But I mean, at the end of the day, developer, this is just a word. It's just a term, right? So, call yourself however you want, right? So, and obviously also there are people kind of who use, I don't know, COBOL as a programming language for some kind of tool in a bank that has been done 20, 30 years ago. I don't know. and they still do that today because
they are
they get
great
paid a lot of
engineers.
money. They get a lot of money because nobody else could kind of maintain that, and it's hard to find people who can
Is that
kind
a
of
true
still use that.
story? You know the
Yes,
market.
that
Is that a
is.
true
Like,
story
yeah,
that
that is.
COBOL
That is. Like,
developers got?
if you Yes, it is, because there are so many. Because what we see, and this is, I think, a problem that you and I have, and maybe I would say the younger generation, what we see is web development. What we see is web applications, mobile apps, AI, the cool shit, the kind of new stuff, and so on. But the majority, and we also are, on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter or X or Mastodon or whatever. Like, we are there, and we kind of, and then we think that we are this kind of community, and we are all developers. But actually, the majority of developers works in, let's call it, old economy companies, like in the normal industry, and so on. Like, they employ thousands. Like, every telecommunications company employs thousands of developers. Like, I know, for example,
Yeah,
just in Germany, all of
that
these
was the first
telecommunications
company I
companies
worked
there,
for.
they have 5,000 or 10,000 developers, and or car companies, and so on and so on, and banks. And they have systems that are old. They cannot every time when a new framework comes out, just change something. They need to plan years in advance and use stable, secure stuff, and so on and so on. So they obviously have, let's call it, old systems, and they obviously need people who also are willing to stay on that stack and not learn the other new cool stuff. Because if there is nobody who uses, I don't know, let's stick with this example of COBOL, then there's not going to be anyone who's kind of maintaining the software.
Yeah,
And this is the thing why they invest so much money in kind of digital transformation, also for the internal teams. Like, then at some point they decide, okay, we have now a 10-year plan. In these 10 years, we need to exchange 99% of the IT infrastructure, not just the technology itself, but also the humans, to a new modern technology that they then will use for the next 20 or 30 years, and so on and so on.
yeah.
So, a super interesting topic.
So I think that maybe I'll rephrase what I said. What I tried to say is, like, when the question of will AI take our job came, say, it's really interesting to maybe take your perspective of short term and long term. So maybe there are two types of developers, and maybe that's based on personality. There are the short term developers who really would like to be on edge, to take these new opportunities all the time. They probably work on startups or companies that can experience more technology. And there are the long-term developers who like to work more for, large corporates, things that, as you said, managed exchanging of the digital infrastructure once of 20 years. And that's kind of the same question of, will AI take our job? If you are long-term developers, then you have less to worry. You need to keep yourself updated. You don't want that if the digital transformation will come, they will just wipe you out as the mainframe. You probably want to understand at least how to keep for the next 20 years. But if you are short-term, you really need to be on edge with what AI gives us as developers.
Yeah, I mean, short term, long term, I would even say, like, if you want to drive innovation is always something where you need to stay up with trends. Like, if you want to build new products, if you want to disrupt industries, if you want to invent things and so on, then obviously it's better you're up to date with everything. But what is boring for you and me is maybe not boring for someone else. Probably everyone, the generation before I started becoming a software engineer, would say that I am not a software engineer because their kind of style of doing software engineering was writing machine code, assembly, and so on and so on. So that's normal. But I mean, what you say, will it replace us? No, it will just change the role. A developer in 10 years will, do different stuff. My thesis is that eventually what we will have is, it will become harder to become kind of a programming developer in that sense. So I think you will have kind of a bunch of people, like highly specialized engineers who build AI. And then you will have a bunch of people, like more people, also developers, using that AI that others built to build products. And these products are then gonna kind of be, sold to consumers or companies and so on. So what I say is, like, they build AI products. So, and I think there is obviously many things that maybe will not be needed anymore. So, for example, I'm not sure if many of the kind of front-end development capabilities in the way how you do it today will be needed. Like, you don't need someone to kind of transform this design into that kind of HTML content. But actually, 20 years ago, ask the people how they did web designs and then what they did. Like, even today already, it's much easier to do things with Figma and other tools. And so it will change, and nothing will happen overnight. Nobody will lose the job overnight if you are kind of, up with the trend and generate value for the company. Yeah.
How would you recommend this developer on a large telecommunication company who work, not say COBOL, I know COBOL in more banks, but they work on a Windows Form system that started in 2005. How would you recommend them to keep on track with trends and technology?
If you want to, probably there has never been a better time in life in terms of you have all the information available, all the information of the world available actually in your pocket, on your phone, or on your wristband, on the watch. So look, if you're interested in kind of making steps further, growing personally, then there are so many opportunities. You go to events. I don't just say it like because we do also an event, but you go to events, you meet people, you talk to people, you watch videos on different platforms, you do online courses, you talk with colleagues, you read a lot. Still, reading is super important. Like, it's not just because we are now kind of digitized, but reading, kind of, if you read a paper book or an ebook or so, books are never outdated. Like, even if you read a programming book out of the 90s that doesn't seem so much relevant anymore, it's still interesting because you learn something. You learn something about concepts. You learn something about the history. You learn something like, hey, why is this? What I always assumed is just there because it's there, but there is a reason for that. So it's just, being hungry for information. And it doesn't matter what. Like, you don't need to, if just because AI is coming, doesn't mean like that everyone needs to kind of go now into data science. That would be total kind of BS, because a world with just data science is not necessarily a better world, right? It's about what is your passion, and then just be hungry for information and hungry for learning, and also talking with the experts in that domain, right? And if it isn't fun for you, like if you say, hey, I just do it because I must do it, then probably it's the wrong thing for you. And probably you shouldn't do it. Probably you should then find another job or another kind of category in your job role or another employer or something like that. Developers are still kind of one of the groups that are most in demand in the on the job market. So if you are not happy, then just find something else.
Yeah, I think that's also a kind of opportunity that AI gives us, because I saw it from the perspective, you mentioned that on the other perspective, but I saw that in the perspective of data scientists. For many developers who didn't want, like, fascinated from building like the programming fashions of software, they now have much more opportunity to get focused on data, right? So if you're, for example,
Absolutely.
find yourself that developing the same like API endpoint again and again, and the challenges is the complexity of error handling. Now you have much wider surface to investigate, to research, to find a job in, right? So
Yeah,
I would say,
absolutely. Everyone can become a developer, like the data scientist who can, can use some no-code tools and just, do a website in Webflow, do some kind of, I don't know, access permissions or so with Permit.io, for example. And I mean, it's a developer, right? I mean, come on,
yeah.
building stuff.
And then you focus on the thing that really makes you happy, and then we get back to the human skills. So maybe the AI did not take our jobs, they just give us the opportunity to be more happy with our jobs as developers, right?
Yes, this is something that I always tell journalists, because the number one question that I get asked is, will AI replace developers, as I already said? And what kind of opportunities does it give? Do you fear that it takes away your job, and so on and so on? The one thing that I always say, no, we are all super happy about it. Like, I haven't met so far a single developer, not even at our event where you have thousands of developers, who say who says, I fear the coming of the AI because I fear of my job, and so on and so on. No, everyone is super happy because this thing and these tools are eventually actually taking away the things that we anyways don't want to do. Like, come on, who wants to do this kind of bug detection stuff manually? Who is kind of in love with writing unit
Want
tests?
to do permission?
Who want to do? Yes, exactly. Yes, I mean, there is maybe someone who has a passion for that, but this is not the rule. So in the first step now, it's actually taking away all the stuff that we anyways don't want to do, and that's super awesome.
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest opportunity that actually generative AI bring us. Choose our better positions as developers. I want to get a little back to the community thing, because I think you have a lot of insights there from but you mentioned the German job market, and I know like you're based in Vienna, the We Are Developers is Berlin. Do you think international, but a truly international community is possible, or the geography affects the way that you build community?
Yes. I mean, yes, we are headquartered in Vienna, the World Congress, and we have one company in Berlin, and we launched one in Amsterdam, by the way, for everyone who's watching from the Netherlands here. So we are actually our communities, I would say, very international, very European, all across Europe, and a few percentages from the US and APAC, and so on. But yes, obviously it makes a difference, because there are cultural nuances, there is different needs from the local industries. Like, for example, that Germany is historically seen a automotive country,
for sure.
So even if there is maybe some struggle right now with different topics, so you obviously have a large industry, not just the automotive brands, but also all the local suppliers. Like, for example, companies like Bosch. Bosch is the largest automotive supplier. It's not just the drilling machine that you see, or the washing machine and so on. They're actually
the question that I always like to ask.
There's actually one piece of information that I found very interesting is actually literally every car in the world has at least one piece of Bosch inside, no matter what it is, from wipes to something. So, and that's super interesting. And you have many companies such as that, and also small and mid-sized companies in Germany. So also their market need and their market demand is, I would say, very close to embedded engineering. And whereas maybe somewhere else where you have a kind of a thriving, let's say, web application ecosystem, you probably need more people in maybe different tech stacks. And then maybe the cultural approach of these people is also different, because I do believe that some technologies fit to different characters differently than to others. So yes, but at the end of the day, I mean, as I said, we have all the information of the world in our pockets, and not just the information, but actually all the people who are online in the world, we also have in the pockets, right? So you can just write someone on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on whatever platform. So at the end of the day, you need to be open, you need to be inclusive, and you need to kind of create additional value for the community that you want to target. Because if you create additional value for them, if you provide them with what they need, they obviously will like to be part of your community. If not, then then you don't have a market for that. So that's
The reason I actually ask that is because I think community has a unique way to affect the community thing on the job world, and the reason I say that because is of the remote job. So I work as a remote employee for years before COVID hit because I work at Cisco, and Cisco is one of the earliest and most largest remote employee. It always looks fun, like Cisco is considered like an old company and the company where all the employees are. But that was historically one of the most innovative remote work companies. I think around 2015, they already have more than half of the employees remote employees. And as a leader, as someone who led a team, you probably lead a community. That's the way that remote work is working, right? If you have an office, then you consider it, okay, so we all a family and we go to dinners together and we have a lunch daily, or, all the cultural references of offices and stuff like that. But when you are an engineering leader of a remote team and you have one person from Asia, from a country that is really even hard to speak English in, and one person from the Middle East, and then you have two persons in Europe, and another one in the East Coast, and another one in the West Coast, and etc., etc. So you probably lead a community. What practices you can give me from your perspective or from your background as a international community leader for the engineering leader who want to create a better remote work environment?
I think it's like with everything in life, it's a lot about communication. And I always try to kind of make, to draw a picture kind of in a different way so that maybe someone understands, not biased by the role or the job that you're in or the industry. Like, I mean, just consider you have your family around the world, like really your family, like not colleagues or friends, like family. Or let's say, imagine you have a long distance relationship with your partner. So when will it work if you are so remote? When you have a good communication, right? So, and that's the same with companies. Well, I mean, at the end, as you say, it's a community. Like a company, like, it's nothing else. Like a company as a company is just something written on a paper. But it consists of people, and these people need to, in best case, get along with each other and build something great, and or at least kind of work well together. So they need to know what happens and how it happens and so on. So it needs to be you need to have a good communication and a lot of empathy, I think. But this is not just for remote work. This is in general. Like, I know companies who are not remote, who are hybrid, and so on. Every company, every organization, every family finds their own way of what fits for them. Also, I would say, like, we are in a very privileged kind of industry because we all have these kind of opportunities. There are industries and companies and these things where you can't do that. Like, probably you cannot run an automotive company remote because you need someone in the factory building the stuff. At some point, when everything is automated by robots, maybe even that works, but also you can't work in a bakery without being in the bakery because you need to make the bread. I mean, yes, at some point the robot will maybe make the bread, but we are, what I mean. So I find it very hard to kind of put people, organizations, industries in kind of a different rule set, or kind of in saying, hey, this is the only truth. Like every company has its own DNA, and every organization and every community has its own DNA, just as every individual has its own DNA. And sometimes it's compatible and sometimes it's not. So that's the thing.
I'll say that when I've been at We Are Developer, I see multiple occurrences of engineering leaders who use the We Are Developer conference as a great offsite for the team, to build the relationship, to build the communication. And I think that's a great idea, that if you have a remote team, use an existing community to like a central point, like like your coffee shop. So then you say, okay, we'll meet in that conference, and then we are
Yes.
listening to conferences together. I think is actually a great opportunity, to create. And I can't agree more. Like, communication is the basic. I think there is also the cultural fact. So empathy has different angles in multiple cultures, right? So it's super
Yeah.
important to learn a little about the culture, the way that people behave with each other, things that consider more polite, etc. And that's also super important, I think. I'll ask because you mentioned beforehand the sponsorship, and I know that many companies who sponsor developer conferences is looking for getting new employees. And I know that job market is not in the best days, we can say, for the last decade. But what is your perspective? What do you feel from that perspective of someone who is, having so much developer oriented sponsors? What do you think about the job market and the situation?
Yeah, I mean, there is a shortage. Like, companies are in high demand of engineers, no matter what's tech, no matter what role. And that is not just, just in one region, it's in the whole world. And actually, it's even not just the industry. So it's, of course, developers are in high demand. And I mean, there are studies about that. Companies lose money every day when they have an unfilled position because of lost revenues, lost projects. You miss deadlines, you have to pay penalties. So there is even studies like how much kind of an unfilled engineering position costs a company on average, and it's a really high number. But the thing is, it's not just engineering. I think we have a shortage of people. Like, if you look in the health sector, they need more people. They need more professionals. If you look at other sectors. So if you remember, and I mean, I'm now talking about Europe and maybe the US, and I would say like the better developed areas. But when you watched the news 10 years ago or 15 years ago, then the number one indicator that was shared on the news evening TV show was the unemployment rate, right? It was always the unemployment rate. How big is the unemployment rate? Today, nobody talks about the unemployment rate. Of course, there is high unemployment rates in non-developed countries and so on, but nobody in Germany talks about the unemployment rate. Everyone talks about the demand for skilled workers. And I say skilled workers, not tech workforce, because it's not just tech workforce. And this is something where I say, yeah, and this is something where technology can help us. Because otherwise, it's going to be tough to, have technological advancement and generally also advance as a society, because we became, over the decades, centuries, and so on, always better and better and better as a society. That creates new problems. So then we, create new solutions. That creates new problems. Then we create new solutions. But in the end result, we never had a better quality of life today as human beings. even if not everything is perfect in the world, and there is a lot of mess going around in the world, but comparing it to 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, whatever, it's always better, like today.
Right.
Sometimes we might have the impression that it's not better because we have, all of these media and all information in our pocket again. So when a child dies in Australia in a car accident, then we know it, and then we are sad about that. Just like 100 years ago,
very
nobody
global.
knew it. So, and this is why I say technology can help us to, be healthier, to have maybe longer lives if you want to have longer lives, to be happier, to maybe also have more time for family. Like, it's not everything is in work. There are people who are workaholics, but there's a lot of kind of important things that we miss out while hunting for some kind of business goals and so on and so on. And maybe technology can help us focus also on some other human aspects of being human.
Yeah, absolutely. We all wish for a technology that's doing good for work. I know that we actually saw that less in WeAreDevelopers. I'm not sure why. For us as a sponsor, that was good, but I guess for other, it was about, but we haven't saw that much junior developers or developers who is starting now. And I heard that a lot. It's maybe in a very local market where I live. We live in Israel, but I heard that today the market is a little tougher or harder for junior developers than in a couple of years ago. Did you agree with that? You don't think so?
Yeah, I don't think so. Like, the data doesn't show it. I think at WeAreDevelopers, like, what you have to understand, it's not a scientific conference and it's not a beginners conference. Like, it's awesome for beginners, but it's not.
Yeah.
You don't go to WeAreDevelopers to learn how to code, in Java,
Exactly.
to learn how to code. You go to WeAreDevelopers if you at least know already how to kind of code or do things, in order to get an overview about everything that is happening in tech and to become better as a developer, to know what tools I can use, like, WeAreDevelopers is actually about how to build great products. But if you want to build great products, you already need to have some kind of knowledge. So I would say we do have a decent percentage of juniors as well. Like, from the statistics, I know that
you do.
But obviously it's not. If you go there like as a bare beginner, like, just you have never done anything in technology, you've worked as a waiter in a restaurant, and you go there, you probably wouldn't understand a single word. So it wouldn't be the right conference for you from the program perspective. But from the people perspective, it would be awesome, because you have thousands of people you can talk about, who can tell you, who can tell you what to do to become a developer. So again, the networking aspect, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of the job market, I don't think that that juniors have a hard time. Maybe there are people asking the wrong companies, but I don't think that it's harder than 4 years ago. I would say it's much easier. I think the entry barrier is lower. Like, I think a junior 5 years ago would maybe be considered a senior today. Like, you have to have, like, you know what I mean? So maybe that's the reason why you have this impression, but I don't think it's harder.
Yeah. In general, do you think that someone in entry level, someone who wants to start, do you think it's better for them to start in a corporate, in a technology company, in a startup? What do you think is like the best place to start as an entry level developer?
Tough question. I would say in different times over the years, I would have given you every time a different answer to that. I think what is always good, like, let's say if you go to a corporate, you can't do anything wrong. Like, I would say this is the safe decision, because you see how a big company works. If this is something that works for you from a cultural perspective, from the speed, big companies are slower than small companies. That's just like it's like like a rule of thumb. you learn something there, you make your progress, you see the environment, you have clear guidelines, you probably have a good onboarding or an assessment and so on. In a startup, probably you will not have a good onboarding or an onboarding at all, so you will be thrown into cold water and please just do it. Like my first job was in a startup, coming up fresh from the university, or kind of during the university, during my studies. I needed a job because I wanted to marry my partner, and needed money, obviously. So applied for this company where my friend already was working. It was a small startup with 15 people or so. I actually have had no clue about the job, but they still took me because I could do a bit of programming.
Yeah.
And I was thrown into cold water, and then you can swim or not. And there are people who like that, and there are people who need more guidance. So I think I would make it dependent of that. If you consider yourself someone who needs guidance, doesn't mean that you are worse than the others. It just means that, like, maybe you need this kind of onboarding guidance and so on to then become the best guy. Then go to a corporate. And if you want to be more kind of dynamic, making decisions yourself, working very hard and dedicated. I mean, that doesn't mean that the others don't work very hard and dedicated, right? But then go to a startup. Like, if you want to be thrown in the cold water and just have a roller coaster, because every startup is a roller coaster. That's the truth behind every startup.
So like the corporate is the safest, but the startup is the one that could create better experience and like throw you to the water.
I mean, the biggest learnings you make anyways the hard way. So I think if you are open to learn, it doesn't matter where you do it. Like, you will find the right place. I mean, normally I would say don't start with your own company. Like, if you are 18 or 19 or 20 or whatever, don't make your first employer being yourself. Go and look around first. But I mean, probably we could argue, and I would also find arguments for why it's exactly the best option to first found your own company and then do other stuff. So that's, again, like on an individual basis. I think as long as you learn, as long as you progress, you can't do anything wrong. If you just sit, in your own kind of home and don't talk to people and just, then
it's
probably,
it's also important to make sure that you have the like community perspective and stuff like that in the job that you choose as a junior, because the people that are the people that will make your career more works better. I think that we are mostly getting to an end. That was that's very fast. That means it was super
absolutely.
fun. So I'll just I prepare some like short question for the end, but I also remind to our audience, if you have any kind of questions or comments or thing that you want we discuss about, you can just drop them. Whatever platform you watch us, no matter YouTube, Twitter, or X, LinkedIn, just drop your comment and we'll answer that. I think I have a question, but not completely related. I know that you have like a kind of, you said that you're more in the management hat, but probably organizing event and working on technical stuff is a really multi-dimensional career. And I think for developers who try, to progress their career, that's always like a consideration. I want to go to management. I want to go to individual contributor. But one of the biggest enemy to that is the productivity. It's really sometimes hard to work in good productivity for when you wear multiple hats in your technical job. What is your productivity tips for developers who are getting to more functions in their job?
I mean, first of all, you need to decide for yourself what is the right thing to do. I still have a passion for even coding. I still have a passion for technology. The thing is, in my role, for example, you work a lot of like kind of with humans. Like, I mean, either you you do business development, you build kind of, connections and relations with other corporates, other tech leaders, or you have your own team that you talk with, and so on and so on. Like for the kind of hands-on operational part, like the event, we have an events team who does the event. Like in earlier days, yes, I was standing there and doing a lot of things myself. So I learned a lot about kind of technicalities of events, and that's kind of really like engineering. Like it's a mess, I can tell you. It's like there's so many different factors and things. But so first you need to decide for yourself what you really want to do. For example, I do really miss kind of, doing more the engineering part, but I can't do it because if I would do any kind of engineering part here, then everyone would go crazy because like, what are you doing? So you have to know what you do. I know a lot of people who kind of go in leadership roles and then want to go back or even go back because they say, no, that's nothing for me. But yeah, between CEO and kind of, let's say, junior developer, there's different paths, like a lot of different kind of options where you can end up with. The thing is always, it's about passion and dedication. Like if you are dedicated in the thing that you are currently doing and you're doing a good job, then opportunities will open. And then you will choose, do I want to take this opportunity or this one or this one? Or am I fine with where I am already? Like what I sometimes see with some people kind of in the industry is that they, want to make the next steps before actually proving that they are already really super good in the step they already are. So, and this is something that is a problem with, with media, with social media, with all of these things, because it's always like faster, better, like everyone wants to be the next Bill Gates, but at age 16 and so on and so on. Like that's not realistic. Like, and at the end, the people who succeed in whatever role they want to take is be good at what you do. And when you are good at what you do, then different opportunities will open up themselves, but they will not open up themselves if you are not good at what you do. It's kind of logical. Like it's weird that we have to talk about this. Like, but I'm sure you can relate. Like, kind of, it's so just be good at what you do, and then eventually you will find your way.
So it's a great advice. You want a good productivity focus in being good in what you do, and then the productivity will come. I think it's similar to the way
it's not
that
always
AI
fun. Like it's not always fun.
Absolutely.
Also, my job is not always fun every day, right? I mean, that's a myth. Like, I mean, when you watch at the Instagram stuff of like, I mean, that's application. I think kind of, I would like to ban it from my phone forever, because like when you watch the Instagram things, feeds, and stories of everyone, you think everyone has a better life than yourself, right? But that's not the truth. That's not the truth. And I mean, yeah. So have a dedication, have passion, be good at what you do, and also be aware that it's not always fun, but still kind of commit to it.
There is another question I want to ask. I know that WeAreDevelopers has a long-term relationship with Joel Skalpsky and Stack Overflow or Stack Exchange. And I heard for the last 2 years, a lot of time, Stack Overflow is dead. So, Dad, is Stack Overflow dead?
No, I don't think so. I mean, when you go on stackoverflow.com, it's still there. No, I mean, yes, people think that, because they have now these co-pilots and so on and so on, then it's kind of a hard time for Stack Overflow. But these guys do a great job. And I mean, the market is big, the industry is big. And Stack Overflow is not just the Q&A portal. So first of all, this is a community for itself. And it will be even, I would say, even for kind of the online community in terms of Q&A portal will be even more important, because it will facilitate more and more deeper discussions. Because anyways, like you don't need the 1000th time someone asking why I do have this. error in concatenating two strings. That's not any kind of data that's interesting anymore. So I think it is a chance to kind of have more high quality discussions if you look at Stack Overflow just from the Q&A bot perspective. But Stack Overflow is much more than that. Like as a company, it's much more than that. Like they have the AI products that are assisting developers while they code. They have Stack Overflow for Teams, which is actually a great tool for kind of
super powerful.
For companies. So no, the answer is no. It's not that. I don't think it's gonna die. So, and I hope not, because Stack Overflow. I don't know with the new generations, but in my generation, I think actually for every developer, I remember 10 years ago I said everyone should pay taxes to Stack Overflow, because none of us would be here without Stack Overflow. Every one of us was using this tool every day, hundreds of times to build something. So I really hope that they will flourish as they did so far.
I'll say that a while ago I did a monthly payment to Wikipedia, and when a friend asked me, "Why do you pay Wikipedia? It's free," and I say I owe my career to two websites, Wikipedia and Stack Overflow.
Yeah, you see.
So Stack Overflow made money from ads, and from Wikipedia I'm paying. So I think it's a great decision, and we need to remember that most of the Copilot's AI probably trained on Stack Overflow. So you need to remember
probably.
that.
I mean, I don't want to say something because I don't know it, but probably they have a lot of valuable data, and probably they can use that also to kind of build business models around that. So, and that's totally fine, because they deserve it. And so
great.
We
are now only over time. Thank you very much for joining me. That was a fascinating hour with a lot of great insights that I'll be really eager to share already. Do you have any kind of conclusion or thought that you want to share?
No, I think we had an interesting session. Like, thanks for all these kind of amazing questions. Like, I always enjoy these sessions if they feel like, we are drinking coffee, even if it's virtual. I have my coffee here, and having a conversation in a relaxed atmosphere. So thanks so much for the for this opportunity, and I hope to see you soon again, maybe at some event or online or
absolutely. We'll do something. We are actually coming to Vienna next month. Maybe we can organize a meetup.
You're going to an event?
We have to Open Source
Summit. Then okay, then it could be an opportunity to meet. Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for listening.
Sure. Bye.
Bye.